Hey guys, welcome back. You had a little bit of a tough day yesterday doing your PowerPoints. It was good for you, I thought. I told you exactly what to do, so if you don't know, please email me. I'm giving you till today by 12 o'clock to complete that, so you're getting 2 days to complete it. It may say that you only get one day, but I'm going to stretch it out a little bit because I know you guys are working hard and I'm proud of you. So if you have any questions, let me know. Um, After you learned a little about that, you learned about some of the court cases, Plessy versus Ferguson, Brown versus Board of Education, Judiciary Act of 1789, the different things along those lines. I want to get into the actual federal court system, okay, and what the structure of it is. So, just getting started here, when we first talk about it, the constitutional courts were created under Article 3, okay? Article 1 was on the legislative branch, Article 2 was on the executive branch, and Article 3 has to deal with the court system of the Constitution, okay? So, these are the federal district courts, the federal courts of appeals, and the Court of International Trade. Let me actually check my little constitutional handbook. Let me make sure I'm on the right thing. This is kind of my diary that I keep of all the things. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to the Constitution. But yeah, so when we get in here, uh, yeah, so Article 3, as you can see right here, is the Constitution. Okay, it has to deal with the Constitution. And and then it goes into Article 4, which is the amendments. Okay, so we're almost through everything. We're going to skip back one in the next chapter and hit Article 2, which is the executive branch. But for right now, we're going to stick with the courts and kind of skip out of order. So we started with Article 1 with the legislative. We skipped over 2. Now we're on Article 3, but we'll go back to Article 2 here in the next chapter. First thing I want to get to is, like I said, so there's 94 federal district courts, and those are the lower level of the courts. If you commit a federal crime, you will be held in a district court. Okay, we actually have one in Erie, which is incredible. Those guys are big time dudes. They're out there. I've met both of them. I've met the attorney general. I've also met the federal judge when we have our Constitution Day, and we've gone on some field trips out there. Let me know if you're interested in this next year. I can take select a few students to meet these people and meet some U.S. Marshals, hear them talk, and it's really neat. There's also, along with the 94 district courts, our lower courts consist of federal courts of appeals. I'm sorry, the next highest level is the appeals, and the Court of International Trade is on the lower level. We'll talk about some of the international courts, the claims courts, different things like that. So our federal district courts, which is the lower level, the 94 of them, they are the only courts that hold trials in the federal judicial sector. Okay, so the appeals and the Supreme do not hold trials. They literally get cases upon appeal. So everything that comes to the Supreme Court, the highest law of the land, um, obviously besides the Constitution, they rule on everything, and everything is brought to them. They never go seek a crime out. Okay, like, hey, we're going to rule on that. No, they're not going to tell you if they're going to rule on that. It gets brought to them. All right. So courts are based off population. We can add or take one away, uh, depending on population. There are 94 total in the United States. They are also in D.C., Puerto Rico. Each have a district court as well. There's over 550 judges that preside over these courts, and when they get moved around or one retires or passes away or whatever it may be, the president appoints these federal judges and with senatorial courtesy, meaning that the Senate gives them approval. Okay? Here's a look at some of the 94 district courts. Right here, the numbers that you see are appellate courts, okay? And we have 12 of those. But as far as this is concerned, we have 50 states, 89 federal judicial districts, each split up over the United States of America based off population, plus one federal judicial district for D.C. Even in our territories, we have district courts. They're ruled by the United States of America, and they're under the United States of America. So Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, Guam, and the Northern Marine Islands all are included in those 94. There's two types of juries, and we've talked about this in our amendments. Number one, we have a grand jury. This includes 16 to 23 people. We saw this in our amendments. We talked about a grand jury. And they hear charges of a person suspected of a crime, committing a crime, and they will rule whether or not there's sufficient evidence to bring that person in after they've been investigated. And we talked a little about, for example, the Jerry Sandusky case. He was at his home. They knocked on his door. The grand jury determined it was time to bring him in, and they arrested him. They brought him in for trial because they believed that they had witnesses and a report to bring him in. Sufficient evidence will result in the grand jury calling an indictment, which means you are being brought up on charges. Remember that. If it's in bold, it's most likely on your exam. An accusation or charging the person with the crime. If evidence is insufficient, charges are dropped. When we have a jury trial, we only have a jury trial in the lower courts that hold original jurisdiction. And you guys should know what original jurisdiction is from the PowerPoint section from yesterday. You have to do that. If you haven't done that, make sure you do. A petite or trial jury, which is 6 to 12 people who weigh the evidence at the trial. There's two different types of juries that are held. We have criminal. They render a guilty or not guilty verdict. And then we have a civil, which finds the plaintiff or defendant supported or not. Okay, so whoever they rule against. And you are innocent until you are proven guilty. So that's to be beyond a reasonable doubt that you are guilty. Some officers that are within the court system, we have our U.S. Attorney General, U.S. attorneys, that are hired by the President and approved by the Senate as well. I met him, the one in Erie. Forget what the guy's name is. Really smart as a whip guy. You don't want to mess with these people. And they defend against all civil suits and want to prosecute in all criminal cases. So they work for the government. The U.S. Magistrate, okay, which is the judge, hears the cases, issues warrants, issues if arrested person shall be held for a grand jury hearing. We have U.S. Marshals who work for the federal government. These guys, if you go into Erie, they'll be standing at the door to let people in, making checks, making sure that everybody that enters is safe to come in. They make arrests, they secure jurors for the courts if there's a warrant out, and they keep order in the courtroom. We also have deputy clerks. These assist the law clerk of their duty when it comes to things like scripting scripting the trial and different things along those lines. We have bailiffs, who's an officer who ups the court duties with such as delivering documents. You've been served, okay? You've been called to court. The bailiff will give you your document. Stock courtroom supplies and take custody of offenders. And we see some bailiff officers working on TV shows as well, okay? We have stenographers, transcribes what is being said in the courtroom. And then we have clerks, aides in the research and writing of the court case for the judge. So go back on the PowerPoint, look over these things. I don't have a lot of time here, but only got 15 minutes, so I can't go real in depth. If you have any questions, let me know. These are just some people who work in the office of the court. All right, so on the bottom level, we have the district courts, the 94 of them. If that person thinks that they were unlawfully ruled upon, or the evidence was faulty against them, or they think they've been treated unfair, or they simply want the case looked at and they can make a case for it based off of something that was flawed in the evidence, they can appeal that court case. The second level of the federal courts is called the Appeallate courts. And in general, we have 13 total broken up into regions of the United States. And in general, only 3 judges sit on these Appeallate panels, okay? Basically what will happen is these are not jury trials. The case has gotten appealed, and one lawyer will come and they'll give their case for about 30 minutes to those judges, and then the other lawyer will give their case on why they're wrong or why it needed to be appealed, and then those 3 judges will make a decision. Number 1, they will uphold the original decision. Number 2, they will reverse that decision. Or number 3, they can send the case back to the district court. Or, which I haven't read here, all right, it can be appealed again. Or if they don't think they can make a judgment, they think it's for the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, they can appeal that again to the Supreme Court, which is the highest court that we have with Chief Justice John Roberts. Okay, so that is definitely one to take into consideration. You kind of see how it's broken up once again. Going back, okay, so if we look here, if we go all the way down here, the Court of International Trade, U.S. Court of International Trade is right here, and they are considered to be one of the district courts, okay, the lower courts, and they can be appealed to this side. So we also have district courts that specify in certain governmental duties, okay, U.S. claims courts, which we'll talk about. But the Court of International Trade hears anything dealing with tariffs that the federal government puts on businesses, bringing things into this country and whatnot. Ports in the U.S. where citizens believe tariffs are too high may bring cases to the courts, and they can be heard or tried. Maybe they're unlawfully certain ports are putting unlawful tariffs on ships that are coming in, charging them more than what they believe this can go to international trade. And we just have made these separate courts so the district courts, and 94 of them, are not flooded with court cases, and they can all do their duties as said. Just like the International Trade Court, we have another district court known as the Federal Claims Court. Handles claims against U.S. government for money damages. If they're, eminent domain, putting something through somebody's yard that has to be put through. For example, when they ran the pipeline down the middle of the United States, we could see a court case brought up by the Native American tribes because of the environment and their land being destroyed. It might go to the federal claims courts. Okay, so this is the government may have not paid a bill for goods or services. You can sue here. We then have the tax court and the court for armed forces. So another one, once again, citizens who disagree with their taxes or investigations that have been done. So if you're being audited and you don't agree that they're bringing you to trial or for your taxes, you can go to a tax court. Or if you're not paying your taxes, Wesley Snipes, we have a federal prison right here down in Bradford, a couple hours away from us. These are guys who are federal criminals. An actual famous actor, Wesley Snipes, was at Bradford for a short time. He was not paying his taxes, income tax, which was a big problem. Okay, so pay your taxes, and you won't go to tax court. Armed forces. The armed forces, I'll show you, has a separate branch specifically for the armed forces. They beat to a little different drum when it comes to the courts. You do not serve in civil court. You go to military court, and they have the same bracket. One thing is they do not need a grand jury to be brought and called to court. You basically will be tried by your commanding officer if you've broken military law or you've committed a crime, and you will go serve trial in the lower military court. And then there's a military court of appeals, and then it goes right to the Supreme Court. So if you commit a law and break a law in the military, break command, okay, it could be a variety of different things. You could be dishonorably discharged or honorably discharged or whatever it may be, but you're going to go to the Armed Forces Court, not the civilian court. We also have, like we said, territorial courts that are in the Virgin Islands, Guam, Northern Marinas, and Puerto Rico. And they handle different civil and criminal cases in these locations that can be appealed to the United States appeals courts. District of Columbia, which is Washington, D.C., has a whole judicial system that handles civil and criminal cases here, separate from everything else. The Court of Appeals for Veterans and Foreign Intelligence Courts, going up to the second level here, like I said, the Veterans Courts, unsettled claims for benefits for veterans after they retire. So we have a separate Veterans Courts, and I'll show you that. It's kind of a whole different bracket going up for just specific veterans of the military and what they have. We seem to get a lot of court cases that come through there, and they're flooding the district court, so they literally created a whole different one. We have foreign intelligence courts as well. They operate in secret. It consists of a panel of federal judges who govern the process of eavesdropping on citizens and national security matters. Guys, right here, if you want to take a look at this, here it is. All right. We also get appeals right to the Supreme Court from the highest of state Supreme Courts, okay, and appeals from federal regulatory agencies. So you can kind of see here all the lower courts are the military courts, territorial courts, 94 district courts, U.S. Court of Veterans Appeals. All these courts, okay, can go to appellate courts. And these are the lower courts that hold jury trials. All the ones that are down here, all hold jury trials. And you can kind of read down here. I posted this document along with the other ones. But what you're going to do today, okay, we're obviously not going to break into 4 groups since we have the coronavirus now. But a little fun activity here is you're going to try to get senatorial courtesy, which means you're going to try to get 50% of the Senate to vote for your perfect judge. So if you could actually pass a perfect judge, I want you to create a perfect name, being serious, not immature, and a summary of 3 areas you think is important for a judge to have. Here's the 3 areas. What kind of party affiliation, judicial philosophy of that judge, and background. Your goal is to receive half of the Senate. So you can just do this. It can be short, 3 paragraphs, kind of a fun activity, the perfect name, your judge, senatorial courtesy, and I'll post this as the senatorial courtesy judge activity for 10 points, and you can submit that to me. All right, guys, that's the lower court system with the federal judges. and the Appeallate court system. If you have any questions, please let me know. See you later.